You've arrived at CozySideAudio, where dreams begin with a story. Tonight's tale is here to help you wind down and find peace. If this brings you comfort, please like, share, and subscribe so more dreamers can join us. Let the night carry you, and let's begin. CozySideAudio presents Whiskerbound, The Long Way Home. Chapter 1. The Box That Moved. I remember the scent of oranges. It clung to her fingers as they brushed through my fur, lingered in the soft hum she sang while stacking folded towels, and pooled like sunlight in the corners of our little home. That was before the quiet changed, before the rooms began to lose their warmth, before everything was wrapped in boxes and silence. Her name is Emmy, and mine is Sora. At least that's what she calls me when she smiles. She didn't smile much in those last few days. Not because she was sad, no, not quite. It was a quiet kind of busy, the kind that smells of cardboard and tape, of old books being packed and coffee going cold. She moved like someone caught between here and elsewhere. I watched her from atop the bookshelf where I could see the whole apartment, a small square of sky through the window, the rug where I'd nap at noon, the counter where she cut fruit and left scraps for me, sometimes on purpose. Then the thunder came, not from the sky but from the hallway. Boots and voices and boxes piled like strange monuments in our living room. The scent of strangers filled the air, sharp and unfamiliar. I didn't like it. So I found a box smaller than the others, warm inside, filled with a blanket that smelled like Emmy. It had holes, little breathing stars poked into the cardboard. I crawled in, tail curled tight around me, and listened to the rhythm of her footsteps one last time before I drifted to sleep. When I awoke, the sky had changed. The world rocked. Loud, mechanical growls rumbled beneath me. The scent of oranges was gone, swallowed by rubber and metal and oil. My box was moving. No, I was moving. I let out a cry, a small one, indignant but uncertain. No answer. Just the endless hum of the machine. I clawed the lid open, pushing my head through the flaps. Blinding light. Rows of crates. A smell that burned the inside of my nose. This wasn't home. I waited. Hours, maybe. The truck stopped. A door groaned open. And then chaos. A stack shifted. My box tilted, toppled. I hit the ground hard, tumbling like laundry. My paws scrambled for grip on the slick floor as someone yelled in a language I didn't understand. I ran. Through a blur of colors, under metal shelves, past shouting humans. My heart drummed like a trapped bird. Then, freedom. A gap in the dock door. Wind in my face. A hiss of light. I bolted into the open. The city swallowed me. It was not the city I knew, not the street outside our window where children played and Emmy watered the balcony plants. This city was louder, taller, hungrier. Buildings stabbed the sky like teeth. Roads buzzed with machines that breathed smoke and death. Voices rose and fell like waves crashing on metal shores. I crouched behind a rusted pipe, ears flattened, nose twitching. Nothing smelled familiar. The ground vibrated. A bus screamed past, spraying mist from a puddle onto my fur. I sat there, shivering, watching the humans move in rivers, so many, none of them her. Was she looking for me? Had she opened my box and cried out my name? Could she even hear me this far away? I closed my eyes and tried to remember the way she used to hum. That night, I wondered. The city at night is a different creature. It breathes through neon veins and trash-strewn alleys, through the hum of vending machines and the whisper of bicycle chains. I passed under glowing signs shaped like fish and moons, through steam clouds that smelled like salt and onions and fire. I found a patch of warmth beside a bakery vent and curled there, listening to the radio chatter of passing cats. They didn't see me. I was too clean, too scented like indoors. They knew I didn't belong. A screen across the street flickered with an image of a woman, singing or maybe crying. Humans cried in beautiful ways. Like rain on glass. I watched until the light faded. In the early hours, I met the whispering street lamp. Not a cat, not a human. Just a tall iron thing with a cracked glass bulb that buzzed softly in the stillness. It flickered when I sat beneath it, casting long shadows across the wet concrete. "You're far from home," it said, in the language only night things speak. I didn't answer. I didn't know how. "You're not the first," it continued, "but few ever find the way back." "Is it far?" I asked, barely above a breath. The lamp buzzed. Far enough that you'll need more than pause. By dawn, I'd chosen a direction. Not because it felt right, but because the wind carried a memory on it of citrus and lavender and warm laundry. Maybe it was real. Maybe I imagined it. But I followed it. Across rooftops that shimmered with dew, through markets just beginning to stir, past a girl stretching on a balcony who looked almost like Emmy but wasn't. My name is Sora. I once lived in a box filled with light and the scent of oranges. Now I walk the city looking for a face I love. The world is enormous, but I am not small. Chapter 2, The Pigeons of Cloud Park. They say cats can't fly. But I did once. Not with wings, no. I leave those to the sky thieves and bread fighters. But I flew in a box of steel and wires, held aloft by humming cables and invisible pulleys, lifted from the smog-choked street to the highest garden in the city. Cloud Park, they call it. A green dream suspended atop a tower of glass and light, so high it sways with the wind and tickles the underbellies of passing clouds. A place where humans go to forget the ground, and birds forget to fear. I found the entrance by accident, chasing a red balloon that bounced and weaved through alleys like it had a heartbeat. It slipped into a silver building with mirrored walls that bent the world around me. I almost didn't go in, but something tugged at me, not the balloon, not hunger. Curiosity, a stronger thing than instinct sometimes. The elevator smelled like metal and rain. I ducked in as a group of school children poured out, their laughter echoing in the chamber like bird calls. One girl glanced at me and whispered, "Look, a spirit." Then the doors closed. The box hummed and rose. I was flying again. Cloud Park was not what I expected. From above, the city looked like a spilled puzzle. Too many pieces, some upside down, none quite fitting. But up here, everything made sense. The air was soft and strange, thin and cool like early spring. Trees grew from planters shaped like teacups. Wooden bridges arched over koi ponds that shimmered with golden ghosts. And grass, real grass, sprouted from earth I could press my paws into. The scent was so clean it made my head dizzy. And then there were the pigeons. Dozens of them, strutting in circles, preening, flapping, and arguing like philosophers who'd lost the plot. One wore a discarded candy wrapper like a cape. Another had a bread crust around its neck, worn like a tragic medallion. They regarded me not as a threat, but as an interruption. "Another groundwalker," muttered the caped one, his feathers ruffled with disdain. "Lost, no doubt." I tilted my head. "I'm not lost. I'm looking." "For what?" asked Breadneck, eyes narrowing. "Home." The pigeons fell silent. One let out a low coo, almost respectful. "There's no home up here," said the caped pigeon, softer now. "Only the edge." I spent the afternoon beneath a cherry tree that hadn't bloomed yet, watching the city crawl below like an old animal. The pigeons came and went, discussing migration routes and the ethics of sandwich theft. Children ran past, their feet light, their voices like music. A woman knelt beside a flower bed, planting something blue. A man sat on a bench, sketching the skyline with charcoal-stained fingers. I studied them. Humans look so soft from up here. Not their skin, but their shape around it, hunched, folded in on themselves like paper boats floating through time. Their eyes always search for something, phones, clouds, each other. They walked with purpose, but their heart seemed elsewhere. I didn't understand them, but I missed them. As the sun began to dip, painting the sky in honeyed pinks and bruised blues, a boy with a paper kite approached me. He was small and quiet, with hair like burnt sugar and sleeves too long for his arms. He sat a few feet away and didn't try to touch me. Just watched, like I watched him. "You're clean," he said, almost to himself. "You don't belong to the park." I flicked my tail. "My cat used to sit just like that. Before we moved here." He paused. "She got out of her carrier during the move. We never found her." I looked at him. His eyes were far away, staring through me. I didn't know what to say. "I hope she found somewhere good," he whispered. I brushed against his knee before I left. Not because I knew what it meant, but because it felt right. His smile was small and sudden, like a window opening. I followed the edge of the park after that, climbing along the stone border, peering down at the endless drop. Wind tugged at my fur. The city below blinked its lights on one by one like stars falling in reverse. "Thinking of jumping?" asked a voice. It was the caped pigeon again, perched beside me. "Just wondering how far down it goes." "Too far," he replied. "But you're not really thinking of falling. You're thinking of climbing." "Climbing where?" "Back. To her." My ears flicked. "She must be important," he added, rustling his feathers. "To pull you through all this." "She smells like oranges," I said, without meaning to. The pigeon made a sound like a chuckle. "That's a good reason." Night fell slow and strange, like a dream unraveling. The park emptied, but I stayed. I found a bench with an old coat draped over it and curled inside. The city was still awake beneath me, but up here the world was quiet. Softer. I thought of Emmy. I thought of the box. Of the whispering street lamp. Of the boy with the kite and the pigeons with strange names. Maybe this city wasn't meant to be understood. Maybe it wasn't a place at all, but a song I had to walk through, one note at a time. I closed my eyes and listened. The wind sang. Chapter 3, Lanterns in Kyoto Heights. The pigeons said not to go east. "Too old," muttered Breadneck, shaking crumbs from his feathers. "Too quiet," said the one with a limp. "Too many things watching," warned the caped one. "Not all of them kind." But something in the wind carried a scent like rain on stone and warm rice. It curled around my whiskers and tugged at my paws. A scent like home, though not mine. So I went east. Kyoto Heights was a different world. Gone were the silver towers and neon signs. Here the buildings sagged with age and whispered to each other in the creak of old wood. Lanterns swayed from eaves like sleepy fireflies. The streets were cobbled and uneven, winding like they couldn't quite remember where they were going. It was quieter here. Slower. Like even the air took its time. Every surface smelled of something lived in. Moss, ink, incense, dried fish, warm tatami mats. Faint paw prints dotted the dirt paths between houses. I followed them. A breeze carried the distant ting-ting of wind chimes and the soft chant of someone sweeping a porch. And further still I heard them. The shrine cats. They appeared all at once, stepping from shadows like smoke given shape. 3 of them. Gray as ash, eyes like pale marbles, moving in perfect silence. They surrounded me, not threatening, not curious. Simply present. The tallest one bowed her head. "You are far from your usual threads." "I'm looking for someone," I said. "You're not the first," said the second, circling me. "Many search. Few remember what they've lost." "I do remember," I replied. "She smells like oranges and warm laundry. She sings when she thinks no one is listening." The third one blinked slowly. "That is a good memory. Keep it." They turned in unison and padded up a moss-covered stairway, not bothering to check if I'd follow. I did. The path led to a small hilltop shrine, half swallowed by nature. Vines draped its red gate. Stone foxes stood guard beneath a torii that had seen better days. The wood smelled of lightning. Strings of lanterns were being lit by unseen hands, each flame flickering to life as though called by name. And beyond the gate, the festival bloomed. It wasn't a festival in the human sense. There were no games, no crowds, no candy-sweet air. But I saw humans. One by one they came. Some young, some old. Some with wrinkled photographs, others with trembling hands. They carried lanterns, real ones, each one bearing a name or a memory or both. They didn't see me. Not really. But I saw them. A girl placed her lantern at the shrine steps and whispered, "Thank you for waiting." An old man sat beside a bench and simply wept. The flame of every lantern flickered in time with their hearts. I watched from beneath a plum tree heavy with silence. The shrine cats flanked me. "What is this place?" I asked. "A memory ground," said the tall one. "A place where the world folds in. Humans come here to leave pieces behind," added the second. "And sometimes to pick new ones up," said the third. I didn't understand all of it, but that was becoming a familiar feeling. As night deepened, the lanterns began to rise. One by one, they lifted into the air, not tethered to anything, not lit by anything but whatever makes people keep hoping. Dozens of them, floating like tiny stars born from sorrow and gratitude. I looked up, awestruck. They rose past the trees, past the rooftops, into the night where the city lights couldn't follow. One brushed my ear on its way up. It smelled like miso soup and cologne in the pages of an old diary. Home to someone. Not to me. But I was starting to understand that every home has a shape, and every shape casts a shadow. And if you follow the shadows long enough, maybe you can find the light again. Before I left, the shrine cats offered me something. The tall one placed a small paper tag at my paws. It was blank. For when you remember something new, she said. The second cat bowed. Safe travels, Softfoot. And the third one only whispered, don't forget who you are. I descended the hill as dawn turned the sky violet. Behind me, the lanterns drifted higher, vanishing into the soft ocean of morning. Ahead, the city stretched, endless and waiting. I tucked the paper tag beneath my fur. I didn't know what I would write on it. Not yet. But I would know when it was time. Chapter 4, Ramen Bones and Alley Kings. The scent of fried oil led me there. Grease thick as smoke, noodles salted with sweat, broth bubbling behind a sliding window smeared with old fingerprints. A scent that clung to the air like steam on glass, rich enough to chase the sadness from my fur for a few minutes. I didn't know its name, but the locals called it the Bone Bowl. A ramen shop pressed between two crumbling buildings, half swallowed by ivy and advertising posters faded to ghosts. It was the kind of place humans ducked into after a long day to disappear into steam and slurp sound silence. The kind of place cats like me weren't welcome. But hunger doesn't care about doors. I crouched behind a stack of milk crates, watching the back door. Every few minutes, it groaned open to release a tidal wave of smells: pork, seaweed, burnt onions, disappointment, and a mound of trash too good to waste. I wasn't the only one watching. 3 cats slinked out of the shadows when the trash hit the ground. One black with a torn ear. One orange and enormous, shaped like a cushion with legs. And the third slim, scarred eyes like tarnished copper. He looked at me and didn't look away. You don't smell like here, he said, low and careful. I didn't answer. Hunger tightened my belly. The orange one growled. Fresh collar mark. Pet cat. Not anymore, I muttered. Doesn't matter, the black one sneered. He doesn't know the rules. The copper-eyed cat stayed still, studying me. You got a name? Sora. He blinked. Yaji. Yaji didn't speak like the others. He didn't puff up or threaten. He didn't try to impress anyone. He simply stepped aside and gestured, barely a flick of his tail, toward the spilled bean. A broken pork rib. A shred of bamboo shoot. One half-sucked fish head. Gourmet. I ate fast. Not like a house cat. Like a stray. Like someone trying to forget. You running from something? Yaji asked later, curled on a vent pipe above the alley. I licked grease from my paw. Running to something. He nodded like he understood. The ones who run always end up here, he said. Kurosawa Alley takes them in. Spits them out. If they're lucky. What about you? I asked. He smiled without teeth. I'm not lucky. The next day, I followed Yaji through the veins of the alley. It was a kingdom made of wire and shadow, a place stitched together from rooftop holes, rusted grates, forgotten temples, and laundry lines that stretched like bridges across the sky. Pipes dripped. Paint peeled. Everything whispered. We passed feral dens where kittens played with cigarette butts and old cans. We watched humans who lived in boxes, wrapped in their own smell. We saw things best left unnamed, a place where even the rats bowed low and scurried quickly. This is the Bone Throne, Yaji said, stopping before a narrow tunnel. At the center, a sunken courtyard littered with ramen bowls, chicken bones, candy wrappers, and fish bones arranged like trophies. On a plastic crate sat a cat bigger than I'd ever seen, hulking, patchy, crowned by a fried shrimp tail balanced on his head. The Alley King. He stared at us through one clouded eye. You brought me a clean one, he rasped. You owe me better, Yaji. He's quick, Yaji replied. Sharp eyes. Lost something important. The king sniffed. Then he's already broken. I didn't belong there. Not among the scarred survivors, the rule makers and rule breakers, the ones who learned to fight before they learned to purr. But I didn't leave. Yaji took me in. He showed me the safe rooftops, the shops that left scraps, the spots where the humans fed birds but didn't chase cats. He taught me how to listen to vibrations in the ground before a subway train came, how to read the scents left behind on mailbox corners and trash can lids. He taught me that the city isn't one place. It's many-layered like fur, and only those who crawl through all of them know how to truly survive. Some nights we sat on a rusted fire escape and watched the windows flicker on. I saw so many Emmys. A woman slicing apples for no one. A man painting his ceiling with constellations. A child holding a flashlight under a blanket, whispering stories to stuffed toys. So many faces. So many homes. None of them mine. But for a moment, I stopped missing it so loudly. "Why are you still here?" I asked Yaji one night. He didn't answer for a while. Then, I had a person once. I waited. She was a painter. Painted everything. Walls, paper, clothes, even me once. He laughed softly. Said I had a melancholy palate. "What happened?" "She left," he said. "Got sick. Disappeared into a white building. Never came back." Silence. I waited on her doorstep for days. Then I wandered. Found this place. I looked at him, really looked at the scars, the wary eyes, the way his tail twitched when he thought no one noticed. He wasn't from here either. By the end of the week, the alley king called me Ghost Paw. He meant it as an insult. But I kind of liked it. Then, one night, everything changed. A dog, not just any dog, but a beast, a street-hardened mutt with broken teeth and thunder in its bark, charged into the alley, tail high, eyes wild. The bone thrown scattered. Cats dove for cover. But I was slow. Still new to the fear. The dog lunged. I froze. And Yaji leapt. Fast. Fierce. Fearless. He scratched and snarled and took a bite meant for me. Blood hit the wall. Then the dog turned and ran, tail between legs. I rushed to Yaji's side. He was breathing, but shallow. His copper eyes found mine. "You're not small," he rasped. "You just forgot how to be big." Then he passed out. We carried him to the pipe den. The others helped, grumbling, but they helped. That night, the alley was quiet. I sat by Yaji's side, pressing against his fur, whispering stories of lanterns and pigeons and cherry trees that had yet to bloom. He didn't move, but I think he heard. Chapter 5, Girl with the Cloud Umbrella. The rain arrived like a secret kept too long. Not the kind that starts with thunder, but the soft kind, more mist than storm, more whisper than roar. A fine curtain that draped the city in a film of stillness, turning every edge softer, every sound rounder. Yaji was still sleeping when I left. He needed rest. Real rest. The kind I couldn't give him. So I slipped from the den before dawn, out through the rusted drainpipe and into the silver morning. The alley smelled like wet metal and old soup. I didn't know where I was going, only that the city felt different in the rain, like a memory I hadn't lived yet. By noon, I found myself wandering the border of neon veins, the city's pulsing center. Here, color was alive. Lights blinked even in daylight. Screens shouted ads into the void. People drifted past like koi in an overstocked pond, bumping shoulders, brushing umbrellas, all in a rush to go nowhere. I tried to walk among them, but the umbrellas were too many, the feet too fast. I was nearly stepped on twice, splashed 4 times, and hissed at once by a dog in a stroller. So I slipped into the folds of the city instead, beneath awnings, through doorways left ajar, across steam grates and rain gutters that glowed like veins beneath the skin of the world. Eventually, I came to a glass bus shelter. And she was there. She sat alone on the bench, knees tucked under a long black coat, a cloud-patterned umbrella balanced like a halo above her head. Her eyes were somewhere far away. Her fingers traced shapes on the fogged glass beside her. A backpack rested at her side. One of the zippers had a bell on it, though it didn't ring. I paused beneath the bench. She didn't see me at first, but she felt me. "I knew you'd come today," she said softly. I froze. Her head tilted down, dark bangs falling into her eyes. She looked at me, but not like most humans do. Not like I was a curiosity or a threat or a passing moment. She looked at me like I was someone. "You're not really here," she whispered. "But that's okay. Neither am I." I stepped out from under the bench. She didn't move. Do you believe in ghosts, cat? I blinked once. She smiled, the corners of her mouth barely twitching. My name's Miyu. But my brother called me Mimi when we were little. He said it was what wine sounded like when it was happy. Her umbrella shifted. Raindrops pattered like footsteps. He died 2 years ago, she said. Car accident. The driver didn't even stop. She looked back at me. He loved cats. Always wanted one. I sat beside her. I told myself, if I ever saw a cat on a rainy day, alone and quiet like this, maybe it would be him. Just checking in. Her hand hovered over my head. Hesitated. Dropped. Not onto me, just onto the bench. She let the silence rest between us like a soft blanket. The rain thickened. Cars hissed by in waves. A boy in a frog-patterned raincoat skipped through a puddle like it was the sea. Miyu pulled out a sketchbook and began to draw with a pencil stub. Her lines were fast, soft, never quite touching. I peeked. It was me. Well, a version of me, longer fur, a tail that trailed into stars, eyes like lanterns. I draw things I miss, she said. Sometimes it helps. A pause. Sometimes it doesn't. When the rain slowed to a drizzle, she stood. The umbrella twirled once. I have to go now. My therapist says I need to leave the house more often. That people aren't ghosts. That I'm not haunted. She looked at me like she wasn't quite sure. But maybe being haunted isn't always bad. Maybe it's how we remember. She slung her backpack over one shoulder, the bell still silent. Then, after a moment of thought, she bent down and placed something beside me. A slice of dried salmon jerky. Thanks for listening, she whispered. And with that, she walked off into the wet neon haze. I stayed under the shelter a while longer. The jerky was chewy and perfect. Her scent lingered. Rain, pencil-lead, sadness. I watched the city pulse around me, saw the reflection of Miyu's umbrella in a passing puddle, the clouds on it brighter than the sky above. Was she crazy? Or just honest in a way most people weren't? I couldn't say. But I knew one thing. I'd remember her. That night, when I returned to the alley, Yaji was awake. He looked tired but alive. He sniffed once. You smell like seaweed and teenage grief. I curled beside him. I met a human today who thinks I'm a ghost. You kind of are, he murmured. And then we slept. The rain kept falling. But inside everything was warm. Chapter 6, A Train to Nowhere. Somewhere in the bones of Aomizu, there's a railway that no longer remembers what it was for. Tracks swallowed by ivy. Rails bent like spines. Cars rusted in place, their windows painted over with moss in sorrow. They call it the sleeping rail. No one uses it anymore. Except ghosts. And cats. Yaji said it wasn't a safe place. Too quiet. Too full of memory. But after the alley fight, we needed quiet. Somewhere no dogs howled. Somewhere the city forgot to pulse. So we went. It took most of the day to reach the line, through storm drains and fire escapes, over broken fences and under bridges where water dripped like ticking clocks. Eventually, we found the tracks, thin silver veins cutting through a hill of cracked pavement and untamed wisteria. The scent hit me first: rust, pollen, rain-soaked wood, and old dreams. It smelled like everything I didn't know I missed. We walked the rail like tightrope artists, paws balanced on cold steel, tails flicking for balance. To our left, rooftops sagged under age and mildew. To our right, a concrete slope dropped into wildflower chaos. Above, the sky opened like a sleepy eye. The city for once felt far away. No buses. No vending machines. No humans rushing anywhere. Just us. And the silence. Used to be a real line, Yaji muttered, limping slightly but walking proud. Took people to the sea. Why'd they stop it? Time, he shrugged. Or maybe people stopped needing the sea. We passed an old station platform, half collapsed, overtaken by ivy and graffiti. Someone had painted a woman's face across the wall in dripping reds and yellows. Her eyes watched us. She looks like someone, Yaji said. Who? He shook his head. Someone I forgot how to miss. We stopped beside an abandoned car, metal split open, vines spilling from every crack. Inside, bird nests, a half-burned candle, and a stack of folded papers, yellowed and brittle. I pawed at one. Letters, Yaji murmured. Love. Probably. Or something harder. We stayed there a while, saying nothing. Sometimes silence says it best. Later, we crossed a bridge of railroad ties hanging over a dry canal. The wind blew through the planks, making them sing. That's when we saw her. A human woman, maybe 30, sitting on the edge of a rusted boxcar. She had short silver-dyed hair and boots scuffed from stories. She was writing in a notebook with a pencil that looked chewed at both ends. We froze, but she didn't notice us at first. She just kept talking softly to herself as she wrote. I met you at the station with holes in your gloves. You told me not to stare, but I couldn't help it. You had a voice like dusk. Her pencil paused. I never got your name. Then she looked up and saw us. Oh, she said, as if expecting us all along. Visitors. She didn't shoo us away, just patted the space beside her. Yaji approached cautiously. I followed. You know this place used to be alive? She asked, more to herself than us. My grandfather worked the line. Drove the early morning train with a thermos full of black tea and a song about the sea. She looked at us again. I come here to write about people I've never met. Makes them easier to miss. Yaji curled on the boxcar beside her, tail flicking thoughtfully. I stared at the page. On it she had written, The cat walks the rail as if memory is a bridge that hasn't collapsed yet. I blinked. She smiled. We stayed until sunset. The woman packed up her notebook and left us with a paper scrap folded into a crane. For luck, she said, placing it beside Yaji's paw. Or memory. Whichever you need more. Then she walked away, humming an old train melody that I somehow already knew. That night we curled inside the train car, beneath a shattered window. Wind carried in smells of sea salt and dust. Stars blinked through cracks in the roof, too many to count. I think I used to ride this line, Yaji said suddenly. With her. The painter? I asked. He nodded. I sat in her lap. She sketched the clouds and told me which ones were dragons. I thought the ride would never end. He closed his eyes. But it did. I didn't speak, just pressed against his side. The paper crane rested beside us, fluttering slightly in the breeze. Outside, the sleeping rail stretched on, vanishing into vines, fading into night. A train that goes nowhere. But sometimes nowhere is exactly where you find something. Chapter 7. The Human Who Talks to Animals. We followed a fox. Not a real one, not exactly. This one was made of paper and thread and wind. It darted across rooftops and over fences like it knew the way somewhere important, trailing streamers of glowing ink that shimmered faintly in the shadows. Yaji didn't trust it. It's leading us somewhere weird. I like weird, I said. He groaned. That's your problem. But he followed anyway. We lost it 3 times, found it twice, and once it waited for us, perched on a mailbox like it had all the time in the world. When we finally reached the source, the city around us had changed. We stood before a tall, crooked house nestled between 2 high rises, as if the buildings had forgotten to crush it. Its roof leaned like a nodding head. The windows blinked with candlelight. Wind chimes made from spoons, keys, and wind-up toys sang in the breeze. A wooden sign dangled from the doorway. Tea in translation, ask before you ask. The paper fox dissolved at the threshold. I looked at Yaji. He sighed. Fine. But if she turns us into teapots, I'm blaming you. Inside, the house smelled like cardamom and damp parchment. Books towered like trees. Rugs overlapped like forgotten maps. There were bird cages with no birds, shelves of teacups with mismatched handles, and walls covered in handwritten notes in dozens of languages. Some real, some not. A woman crouched on the floor, pouring tea into 5 tiny cups arranged in a circle. She looked ordinary. Long gray sweater, floral socks, wire-framed glasses. But her hair was tied with thread instead of ribbon, and her shadow moved ever so slightly out of sync. When she saw us, she beamed. There you are, she said, as if we were old friends. The white one and the quiet one. I was beginning to think you'd missed the fox. We didn't speak. Didn't have to. She understood. Let me guess, she said, turning to Yaji. You're the protector. Carrying too much silence. Dream in grayscale. Miss someone he used to call you Canvas. Yaji's ears twitched. He said nothing. She turned to me. And you're the one made of longing. Walking toward something that walked away. I took a step back. She smiled. Don't worry. I don't read minds. I just listen really, really well. We stayed for tea. She poured water from a silver kettle that whistled a lullaby. The steam curled into shapes, coy clouds curled paws. We sat on cushions shaped like turtles. The tea tasted like toasted rice and sunlight. This is a strange house, I said. It's not a house, she replied. It's a listening place. I made it from conversations too soft to be heard. She pointed at a wall of old radios all tuned to silence. They only pick up what animals say when humans aren't listening. I tilted my head. So you can understand us? She sipped her tea. Only if you speak loud enough with your heart. Yaji wandered off while I stayed. She showed me a globe with no countries, only colors. A mobile of moth wings that spun based on your thoughts. A mirror that showed the last person who missed you. In mine I saw Emmy. Hair slightly longer. A coat I didn't recognize. She stood in a street holding a flyer with a picture of me on it. Have you seen my cat? My chest ached. I'm not sure I'll find her, I said. The woman looked at me with gentle eyes. The city is a maze. But sometimes the lost are exactly what the world needs to find itself again. She placed something at my paws. A button. Old, round, shiny with a tiny compass needle etched into it. It won't lead you home, she said. But it'll remind you that forward is still a direction. When we left, the air outside felt brighter. Yaji walked ahead, but slower. She was weird, he muttered. You liked her, I said. He didn't argue. That night, we climbed to the rooftop of an abandoned arcade. The stars blinked through a tangle of power lines. Below us, the city breathed quiet, slow-tired. I held the button between my teeth. It didn't spin. Didn't glow. Didn't whisper secrets. But it was warm. Somewhere out there, Emmy was looking for me. And somewhere inside me, I was still hers. I didn't know how far the maze would stretch, or who I'd be when I reached the end. But I knew this. I would keep walking. Because sometimes even cats must chase more than mice. Sometimes they chase meaning. Chapter 8. The Paper City Parade. Some nights the city forgets it is made of concrete. It folds in on itself like an old letter, peels back its neon mask, and remembers its softer stories, ones whispered by wind and water, by ink and firelight. That's when the paper city appears. And if you're lucky or unlucky enough to be far from everything you know, you might just stumble into it. Which is exactly what we did. Yaji and I had been following the scent of grilled mackerel through the old ink district, once a haven for calligraphers, now just alley after alley of shuttered shops and half-faded kanji signs. It was a quiet, forgettable part of the city. Until it wasn't. The alley turned left when it should have ended. The air shifted, smelling not like fish or garbage or rust, but like rice glue, pressed petals, candle wax, and sakura ink. Yaji stopped. You feel that? I nodded. The wind had a rhythm. Drums maybe, but softer, like distant paws on paper. We turned the corner, and the world changed. The paper city bloomed like a dream. Lanterns drifted overhead, tethered to nothing. They glowed in soft watercolor shades, rose, ochre, teal, and some bore symbols that shimmered like they were being written in real time. The streets beneath us were paved with folded paper tiles, creased but strong, rippling faintly when stepped on. Entire buildings rose from intricate origami folds, pagodas, tea shops, tiny apartments with open balconies. The people were paper too, not flat-formed. Three-dimensional, like walking calligraphy brought to life. Each one unique. Some had cranes for hands, others with ink-stained feet, a few whose faces changed expression with each turn of the wind. They didn't seem surprised to see us. A small paper child waved, folding and unfolding her fan-shaped arms. A group of elders, faces creased with careful wisdom, offered nods in silent approval. And then the parade began. It started with a lion made of newspaper, breathing sparks from a torn headline mouth. Behind it danced coy-tailed dancers who flicked petals into the air with each step. A cart of drums thudded rhythm into the street, played by ink bottle skeletons with brushed limbs. Paper birds circled overhead, tethered to string like clouds. Even the air shimmered with lines of poetry written in floating ink. The entire city was alive with motion and memory. Yaji's jaw hung open. "Are we dead?" he asked. I shrugged. "If we are, it's not the worst afterlife." We followed the parade deeper into the folds. A woman with a parasol spun past, her parasol made entirely from letters stitched together, her smile printed in delicate brush strokes. A pair of fox spirits folded from festival flyers offered us warm dumplings that crumbled like confetti in our mouths. Children rode on the backs of dragons folded from lottery tickets and parking violations. Everywhere we went, we were seen, not feared, not pitied. Just seen. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like a stray. I felt like part of the story. At the heart of it all stood a cat. A massive one. Paper, yes, but sturdy like origami made from steel willpower. He sat on a pedestal of scrolls, his body painted with gold characters I didn't understand, eyes glowing like twin inkstones. The crowd bowed. I bowed too without knowing why. He spoke not with sound but with vibration, like thunder inside a book. "Your paws carry grief." I shivered. "But you carry it forward. This matters." Yaji looked at me. "You walk with the shape of home still inside you." Then he reached one paw forward and tapped my forehead. Suddenly, flash, my vision burst with color. Not outside but within. I saw Emmy holding me against her chest, crying into my fur. A younger version of her, painting clouds on her bedroom ceiling. A cardboard box empty. A train. A festival. A sea of lights. Then it was gone. I woke beside a real lantern. The paper city had vanished. The alley was dark, wet with dew. The street normal again, concrete, trash bins, silence. But in front of us, folded neatly on the ground, was a single sheet of paper. An origami cat. Inside, written in the softest ink. "The parade finds those who carry what cannot be thrown away." Yaji stared at it a long time, then looked at me. "What now?" I picked up the origami and tucked it under my paw. "Now we keep walking." That night, I dreamed of paper wings, of folded cities, of Emmy's voice reading stories aloud to no one, hoping someone might hear. And I did. Chapter 9, The Cat Who Stopped Time. Some parts of the city don't tick. They hum maybe, or pulse quietly beneath the surface. But they don't tick. No clocks, no trains, no buzzing phones. Just stillness. We found one of those places by accident. Yaji and I had been searching for warmth. A sudden cold front had swept through Aomizu, biting through alleys and curling its claws around rooftops. The usual dens were full. The ramen shop too loud. The rain not yet done falling. Then we saw the clock tower. Old, crooked, cracked. Tucked between forgotten streets, it rose like a tired sentinel, hands frozen at 3:17, face dim, surrounded by ivy and silence. No footsteps. No voices. Not even wind. Called to us. We climbed through a broken side window. Inside, stillness. Dust hung in sunbeams like memories waiting to settle. Wooden stairs spiraled upward, creaking with every shift of the air. Gears lined the walls, giant things the size of tables, but none moved. They simply existed, like bones of a giant that forgot how to wake. At the top, nestled in the hollow behind the clock face, was her. She was black from head to tail. Not just dark, black like absence, like the moment right before sleep. Her eyes glowed gold, but not in a way that shone. More like how candles remember to flicker. She was curled on a velvet cushion atop a shattered hourglass. She did not blink. "You're late," she said. Yaji stiffened. I blinked. "Do you know us?" "Not yet. But I will." She rose slowly, stretching like ink across silk. "I am Noah, keeper of the unmoving hour." I glanced at the frozen gears. "You live here." "I guard this place," she said, "where the city's time caught its breath and never exhaled." Noah padded toward us. Her steps made no sound. "You're both tangled," she said. pulled forward by longing, backward by memory. Yaji growled. We've had enough riddles lately. This isn't a riddle, she replied. It's a still frame. And with that, she touched my forehead. The world stopped. No wind. No breath. No sound. Only memory. I saw Emmy. Not as she was now. As she was before. The first night she brought me home. Knees curled on the floor. Arms wrapped around me like I was the last warm thing in the world. Her cheeks red from crying. Her breath shaking. Her voice barely a whisper. I'm not alone anymore. I saw her tap her phone with trembling fingers, looking up recipes for homemade cat food. I saw her sit on the balcony reading poetry aloud to me, pretending it wasn't for herself. I saw the day I got out, the door left ajar by accident, her voice calling my name as the wind stole it. And then her silence. For days. For weeks. Holding the empty collar in her sleep. When I opened my eyes, the world was still frozen. Noah sat beside me. You carry her in everything you do, she said. But I don't know how to find her. You're not supposed to. Not yet. She looked to Yaji. He won't come back here. Yaji flinched. Don't tell me what I. You're not ready to let go, she said softly. And that's why time stopped for you too. He looked down. I didn't speak. I just sat between them, the silence like velvet around us all. Eventually, the clock tower began to tick again. Softly. Once. Then again. 3:18. Time moved forward. Noah stood. This place will forget you were here. That's the point. She walked back to the hourglass. But you'll remember. In the quiet. When the world pauses again. I hesitated. Will I find her? She didn't look back. But her voice echoed. Only if you keep walking. We climbed down the tower as dusk bled across the sky. Yaji said nothing. Neither did I. Some things don't need words. Some truths just need time. Later, we found a vent pipe that still blew warm air. Curled beside it. Watched the steam rise into the night. Yaji finally spoke. She was right, he muttered. I don't want to leave. Not because I can't. But because I'm afraid that if I go back and she's not there, then what? I pressed my head against his shoulder. Then you'll still have walked toward her. And that matters. He grunted. But he didn't argue. Somewhere across the city, a girl held a button in her hand. Somewhere else, a parade remembered a cat with ghost quiet paws. And in the heart of an old tower, time kept a secret. And kept ticking. Chapter 10, The Bell Collar Garden. The wind changed. It carried no scent. No smoke, no soup, no oil. Just still air, clean, cool, quiet, like the breath a city takes before telling a secret. Yaji didn't follow me this time. He was still curled near the warm vent when I slipped away, his tail twitching in a dream. He needed rest. After the clock tower, something in him had settled, and something else had begun to ache. So I walked alone. It started with a sound. Ting. Like a single bell, rung gently by a breeze with somewhere to be. Then another. Ting ting. Not constant. Not musical. Just present, like heartbeat echoes in an empty room. I followed the sound. Through an alley filled with broken umbrellas. Over a stone bridge older than the buildings it connected. Into a grove I hadn't noticed before. Wrapped in bamboo and hush. That's where I found it. The Bell Collar Garden. It wasn't a garden in the usual sense. No flowers. No signs. No path. Just soft grass feathered with moonlight and collars, hundreds of them. Hung from tall wooden posts like prayer flags. Some were faded leather, others frayed cloth or nylon, still bearing names too sun-bleached to read. All of them had bells. Tiny ones. Each one sang its own song. They didn't ring constantly. Only when the wind remembered them. The sound wasn't sad. It was remembering. I stepped carefully between the posts. Some collars still smelled faintly of their cats. Some had tags shaped like fish. One had a tiny locket with a picture of a little boy holding a black kitten. A name drifted from a bell as I passed, Momo. Then another, Spindle, Neko, Chai, Mimi. Each one a story. Each one a goodbye. I sat in the center and listened. The bells told me things. Of sunlit naps in warm windows. Of first names and final meals. Of humans who whispered, "I'm sorry." Of ones who never knew how to say it. This wasn't a graveyard. It was a memory field. And something inside me began to ache. There was a tree at the far end of the garden. A single one, twisted, sturdy, blooming white even in winter. Beneath it stood a small shrine. A square of polished stone with one word etched deep. Day. There was a single collar placed neatly at its base. White. No bell. I crept closer. The scent stopped me cold. Mine. It was mine. The collar Emmy had given me, white with little blue triangles. I remembered hating it. I remembered scratching at it until she laughed and promised I could grow out of it. But I never did. Because I lost it. Because I got out. 'Cause she. I don't know what happened after that. Only that this was mine. And it had been placed here like a name spoken at the end of a story. I sat before it, not breathing. Had she given up? Had she moved on? Was I just another bell in the garden? My tail curled tight. The wind picked up. The bells sang, not loudly but insistently. And I heard my name not from the bells, not from the tree, but from within. Sora. Not a memory. A call. Faint. Far. Real. I stood. Shaking. Not from fear. From knowing she hadn't forgotten. I took one last look at the collar beneath the tree. Then I turned. And left it behind. Not to be forgotten. But to remember where I came from. Because it wasn't a collar that made me hers. It was the way she whispered stories at night. It was the way she never said goodbye. It was the way I knew deep down that she was still calling. And I was still walking home. As I stepped beyond the grove, the bells behind me stirred in the breeze. Not mournful. Not final. Just soft. Like paws on grass. Like the wind passing over something that still mattered. And somewhere in the city, Emmy stood by her window, hand pressed to the glass, whispering into the night. Come home. And I would. Even if I had to follow every bell. Chapter 11, Whiskers and Wires. Cities have roots. Not like trees, no, these roots are made of wire and pipe, rust and circuitry. Beneath the concrete skin of Aomizu lies a second city, darker, colder, stranger. It breathes in static. It dreams in blinking lights. This is the undernet. And I didn't mean to find it. Yaji and I had followed a flock of pigeons into an abandoned market lot, half sunken, all dust. We'd hoped to score leftover crumbs. Instead, we found a grate. Wide enough for a human arm. Just wide enough for a cat. It breathed warm air. Not stinking but not fresh either, like toasted plastic and battery heat. There were faint lights down there. Flickering. Moving. And a sound low and chittering like insects building code with their legs. I should have turned back. But something pulled me forward. Yaji watched from the edge, silent. You coming? He shook his head. That place doesn't speak in words. I swallowed, then slipped inside. The tunnel dropped into darkness, then lit again, blinking rhythmically like a pulse. Neon veins lined the walls. Electrical cables tangled like sleeping snakes. Old monitors long dead, flickered static now and then, whispers from machines trying to remember who they were. It wasn't quiet, but it wasn't loud either. Just alive. A different kind of alive. I crept deeper. Saw forgotten vending machines, some still blinking error across cracked screens. Saw a robotic trash collector wheeling in endless circles, its sensor stuck on a loop whispering, "Please dispose of your waste properly." Saw alley cats made of metal. No, partially metal. Whiskers replaced with antennae. Tails replaced with fiber optic wires that glowed blue when they hissed. They saw me. Paused. Then continued on. I was not a threat. I was just not one of them. Yet. I followed them through a rusted turnstile and into a subway station that hadn't seen a train in 20 years. Now it was full of cats. Dozens. Some real. Some not. Some both. One had LED eyes that blinked like camera shutters. Another purred in binary, Soft beeps and chirps that made the neon wires on the wall hum in reply. And in the center of it all, a tower of screens. Old TV monitors stacked like a shrine. Each screen displayed a face. A flickering cat face, different colors, different markings, all pixelated, all familiar. Because they were us. All the cats that had wandered here before. Lost. Searching. Some had returned. Some hadn't. A voice rose from the screen stack. Mechanical. But female. Gentle. Input recognized. Organic signature, Sora. I froze. You are carrying memory. Purpose. Fragmented emotional code. A soft chime. This qualifies you for access. A door opened behind the screens. I stepped through. Found a room filled with broken collars. Again. But not like the Bell Garden. These collars were cataloged. Scanned. Labeled. Stored on shelves like relics of identity. Each with a hologram of its wearer. Each playing a short memory loop. I watched one. A chubby calico leaping into a boy's arms. Another, a sleek tabby rubbing against a paint-splattered boot. Another, a ginger cat sleeping beside a hospital bed as a woman's hand rested on its back for the last time. Each memory flickered, then looped. Over and over. Unchanging. Unable to move forward. This is the archive, said the voice. We preserve what humans forget. We remember the ones left behind. I turned in a slow circle. The air buzzed with old love. I swallowed hard. Why show me this? Because you are not forgotten. Because your memory is not finished. Then a new collar appeared. Mine. Not the first white one. This was different, created from memory, not leather. Shaped from emotion, colored by longing. A soft blue glow humming at my paws. This is what you are becoming. You are not lost. You are in motion. I didn't know what to say. So I picked it up. And it dissolved into my chest. Suddenly I knew where Emmy was. Not the exact street. Not the building. But the direction. Something in me had aligned, an internal compass uncoiled. Home was no longer just behind me. It was ahead. Waiting. I backed out of the room. The screens blinked once. And the door shut. The voice whispered one last time. When the city forgets, we remember. When the world erases, you must write yourself back in. I climbed back up the vent, into a sunrise soaked in electric orange. Yaji was waiting. You look different, he said. I am. That day we walked with new purpose. Toward the last few places the city had hidden from me. Toward the final edge of the story. And as we walked, my new collar glowed faintly. Not a name. Not an ID. Just a symbol. Like a story still being written. Chapter 12. Where the pigeons go to die. There are places the city tries to forget. Not because they're broken, but because they hold something it doesn't know how to carry. We found one of those places just before dawn. The sky was a pale bruise when we reached the end of the line. Beyond the last streetlight, past the train yards and broken chain-link fences, the ground changed. It stopped feeling like city and started feeling like memory. There was no scent trail to follow. No sound except for the quiet flutter of wings. Yaji slowed. You sure this is the right way? I nodded. The collar inside me pulsed softly. Like a heartbeat. We walked under a bent sign that once read, Ozone Park Aviary, do not feed. But the birds were long gone. Except they weren't. Because what we found beyond the sign was a cemetery. Not for people. For pigeons. Hundreds of them. Feathers curled gently around bones. Bodies folded in the grass like origami left out in the rain. Some perched forever in the branches of dead trees. Beaks tilted toward a sky that didn't answer. The place was silent. But not empty. In the center of the field stood a cat. Old. Gray. He looked like mist held together by memory, thin, elegant, draped in dust and soft decay. His eyes were milky, but I could feel them seeing me. He didn't move when we approached. Didn't blink. Just said, you're the one who didn't forget. I didn't know what to say. Yaji hung back. His body tense. The old cat turned. His voice was barely there. This is where they come to end. The birds. The ones who remember what the sky used to feel like. He pawed at a mound of soft feathers. Most don't get here, but some do. The ones who don't want to be watched. The ones who just want to rest. He looked at me. You understand that, don't you? I wanted to say no. That I wasn't here to rest. That I was still walking, still fighting, still hoping. But some part of me did understand. There were parts of me that were tired. The part that missed warm windows. The part that wondered if Emmy had replaced me. The part that feared the journey had changed me into something she wouldn't recognize. And the part that asked, what if I've gone too far to go home? The old cat must have seen it in my face. That's the last door, he said. Not fear, not time, but the question of deserving. He turned away, then stopped. She's still calling for you, he said softly, but not forever. And then he vanished into the feathers, into the grass, into the silence. Yaji stepped beside me. He didn't speak. He just sat. So I sat too. And we watched the sun rise over the city's forgotten bones. There was a nest nearby, half-built, its twigs tangled with string and ribbon. Inside it, curled and still, was a pigeon made of paper and ash. Around its neck was a tiny note, chewed and unreadable. I gently pulled it out, unfolded it, and saw 2 words. Go back? I looked at the horizon. I saw the city unfolding behind me like a great metal storm. I saw the streets I had walked, the faces I had met, the ghosts I had carried. And I knew. This was the edge. There was nothing new past this. Just endings. And birds that no longer flew. So I stood. Yaji stood with me. And we turned. Back toward the city. Back toward whatever pieces of home we could find. Not to erase the journey, but to complete it. Because going home doesn't mean you never left. It means you learned why you had to. The wind picked up behind us, carrying the scent of feathers in farewell. But beneath it, another scent. Emmy. Stronger than ever. Closer. Real. I started to run. And this time, Yaji didn't stop me. Chapter 13, The Long Way Home. I ran. I ran through alleys still heavy with sleep. Past vending machines blinking drowsily in the dawn. Through puddles that remembered last night's rain. The city was waking, but I was already awake. Yaji followed silently, his pace steady, no longer limping. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. The scent grew stronger with every block. Emmy. I knew her now in the air. Soft vanilla lotion, pencil shavings, old tears dried into the fabric of her coat. Every step sparked memories. The sound of her laugh when I knocked over her water cup. The way she'd hum when drawing. The way she whispered, I need you, when she thought I wasn't listening. I wasn't just walking to her anymore. I was walking with her in my chest, my breath, my stride. We reached the edge of her neighborhood just as the first sunbeam split the buildings. Everything looked smaller than I remembered. The vending corner. The rusted bike rack. The tree where I once chased a butterfly and fell off the fence trying to look cool. Yaji slowed. This is you, he said. You're not coming? He shook his head. Not yet. There was something in his eyes I hadn't seen before. Peace. I've got one more place to visit. Someone left my painting unfinished. I nodded. Goodbye, Whiskers. He smirked. You'll be back. I climbed the final fence. The courtyard was the same. A cracked path. A line of apartment mailboxes. A single windshield Emmy made out of bottle caps and string. I stood at the sliding glass door. Heart racing. She was inside. I could feel her. Not just scent. Presence. And then, the curtain moved. She stepped into the kitchen. Sleepy. Wearing that same oversized hoodie. Hair a bit longer. Eyes a bit sadder. And when she saw me, her face didn't change right away. Like her heart needed to catch up. Then her hands flew to her mouth. And I heard it. The tiniest, most cracked whisper. Sora. She flung open the door. Fell to her knees. I rubbed against her instantly, tail high, head into her chest, purring like I'd swallowed a thunderstorm. She clutched me like I'd break. I heard her sob once, then laugh. then say over and over, I knew it. I knew it. I knew you'd find me. And I wanted to say, I never stopped walking. You're still my sky. Thank you for still being here. But all I could do was purr. And that was enough. Inside, everything had changed. Yet nothing had. My bowl still sat in the corner. My blanket still tucked beside her bed. Drawings of me on the wall. And a small note on the fridge. If you find him, he likes boiled fish and sunlight. We curled up on the couch. She talked softly about how she searched, how people told her to give up, how she still left the balcony door cracked, just in case. And when she finally fell asleep beside me, her arm across my back, I looked out the window. The city shimmered in the distance. So many stories, so many faces, so much still waiting. But for now, for this morning, I was home, not just back. Home. Epilogue. A few days later, Yaji never came back. But I think that was the point. Sometimes the ones who guide you aren't meant to stay. Emmy bought a new collar for me. Sky blue. No bell. Just a little silver charm that reads, Long way home. I think she understands that I left as someone else and returned as someone more. Every so often I sit on the balcony, watch the birds fly past, listen to the city hum. Sometimes I think I see shadows moving where no humans walk. Other cats, other wanderers, looking for something, carrying memory, chasing meaning, just like I did. And when the wind blows a certain way, smelling of ink and rust and feathers and warmth, I purr softly, because I know they'll find it. The long way is still a way, and sometimes it's the only one that leads you home. Thanks for listening. Stay cozy, and I'll see you in the next story.